Hi guys, how you been? This is Matthias, and I suppose this is my first long reflection on political economy in English, and um, this is my first, but this is going to be, I suppose, one long series because what I'm going to share with you is something that you can say like I've been studying, researching, and writing about for the past maybe 10 years. All right, therefore uh, it's going to be a long series in my view. All right, I don't know how many series. All right, but it's going to be a long series, and it's about you can say the entire human political economy, uh, and the significance of it, and more importantly, trying to develop certain kinds of worldview, so that we can evaluate current events, political events around the world, be it in the West, be it in the East, be it in Africa. What has been the question, what has been the most important question that should have been asked, or that has been asked and answered in so many different ways. So it's gonna be, in my view, an odyssey of myself in discovering, understanding the world, especially the political economic history of humanity. So, the question, I wouldn't say it started on a specific place at this, or I asked it some specific question, but here and there, I was somehow quizzical about, the difference between the levels of development across the world, especially I'm an Ethiopian. So as an Ethiopian, I was always, wondering why are we this backward? All right, why are we this backward? Because especially if you have, like a little, even like high school level historical knowledge about Ethiopia. Ethiopia is one of like the ancient countries in the world, and it has got some wonderful histories. But like despite it, it is one of the poorest countries in the world. Even though recently there has been commendable growth across the country, uh, it's one of the most backward countries. Among the poorest nations in the world. So by the time I start, inquiring and questioning these things, Ethiopia has been reeling in poverty, dictatorship, blah blah blah. So, my question, my question is, why are we this backward? Africans, at times even you wonder, is this racial bias thing real, or are the Africans doomed to be backward, and blah blah? And so, uh, I start asking that question, and one thing led to another. I ended up, developing my own so-called gestalt or worldview, and it's just I'm going to share that in a long series. So I want to start that with, if you allow me, because biblical thing has got its own place in this thing. All right, one time I've been reading a Bible, and I come across a place called, Decapolis, Decapolis, and I also read the Bible in Amharic, all right, in it has got its own meaning. They almost literally translated that into Amharic. And what is a Decapolis thing, and what is it doing in the what is it doing in the Bible? I mean, I try to search it, and it turns out to be some kind of Roman Greek term, which means Deca is 10 and Polis is a city, so it means the 10 cities. Some Bibles translated literally and say it's the 10 cities, and they, I mean, what you call it, you'll be reading things, but sometimes to read between the lines is also different. So I start questioning that, what is it, and that led me to the discovery of the, for I am, I'm educated, so I've been to school, I've studied history, but for some reason, I have my doubts on the accounts of the past. Like, for example, for me, Cleopatra or Caesar were just fictional characters than, like, historical figures. I know that sounds dumb now, but like, by the time when these things, uh, start, like, when I start questioning these things, um, I know the stories. I know, like, about Cleopatra, for example. I know about Alexander the Great and so forth. But they were more of mythical figures than real historical figures who have played their own role in the shaping, like, conditioning of human history. So it led me to that. And you can say what I did is I started from the ancient human history, like, the total human political history. And I because when I face something, I question it, and the contemporary, or, like, the snapshot historical accounts would not be answering my question the way I would like them. So always I was going backward to understand this thing from its beginning. All right. So uh, one thing led, to another, and finally I, like, through a number of research, questioning, answering, all right, reading, I come to the conclusion that the entire human history was, like, finally, what humanity has been going through for the past 6,000 years ultimately ended up in my view, all right, like, history started somewhere and it progressed in some unidirectional way, and ultimately it ended up becoming the American Declaration of Independence and the American Constitution. That's my, you can say, like, that's my worldview. All right, like, through, like, number of years study of history, that's what I understand. Like, it's culminated on that. Humans have been going through, like, the peaks and the toros, the valleys and the mountains, like, they have been to this ditch, to that ditch, and so forth. But finally, right, uh, the ultimate human travel, historical travel, ended up, like, creating the American Declaration of Independence, and, like, pursuant to that, finally, it becomes the American Constitution that we know today. All right. So, uh, that's my understanding, and, like, that's my understanding, and I have to do a lot of explanation, to that. But even though this is the culmination, this is the summit, this is, like, the final, discovery, human beings in Mavu. This is my worldview, all right. Like, human beings cannot discover any better political system than the American Declaration of Independence. I mean, like, not, a political system that's built based on the architecture, the design, the ideals of the American Constitution. All right, that's the pinnacle, the summit. Uh, but that doesn't mean that, even though that's the final human political endeavor, all right, that doesn't mean that human beings always reach there, or it doesn't mean that once they reach there, they can remain there. They can lose it, all right. Especially, like, now, once I discovered that, when I, like, when I plunge myself into current politics, in the West, in the East, in China, in Japan. Of course, I'm not saying China is, like, constituted, based on the American Constitution. It's far from that. But, uh, like, wherever you look, what I'm trying to say is, already the formula is discovered. Already like, the recipe is found, but people have understood it. It's been discovered. It's been known, but it always depends on human actors. People can understand. It's like, for example, uh like, it's a solution, it's a formula, it is a way of doing things, but, like, it depends on people whether they are whether they understand it, and once they understand it, they are willing to defend, protect it, It depends on human beings. And especially as I told you, when I immerse myself into current politics, I see that especially in the West, like Europe, United States, people are deviating from it. I was so surprised because once I discovered that the Declaration of Independence, the American Constitution, is the ultimate final deliverable of human political history that's supposed to solve. I mean, it's that the best human beings can achieve. Once I discovered that, I thought, the American has got it, so they're doing the best because I was looking from a spectator's point of view. All right, I just watched the American politics through the lenses of, mass media or whatever. But, as I immerse myself into American politics, listen to, mm, um, news, analysis, debates, podcasts and so forth. Wow, it's like the American can lose it. That's my sense, all right. The Americans can lose it, and the American losing it is not only an American thing, in my view, all right. Because for me, the America is the city in the high tower, or the city in the mountain, and it's supposed to be a leader for that. By the way, I have started I've been reading the Federalist paper and themselves, all right. Especially Alexander Hamilton had that vision, there. I mean, even you can read the Gatsby address, you would find Abraham Lincoln saying, if my network is doing good, all right, the Gatsby address, all right, the Gatsby uh, the Gatsby address, is that yeah, I'm having some network issues, but I use my phone and I like to get the text and I want to read it for you. So, once after saying four score and 7 years ago, something like that, he goes on to say, now we are engaged in a great civil war. All right. The purpose of the great civil war is not only about the unification of the United States, ending of slavery. All right. It's not only about that, even though those things have their places, similar testing whether that nation, all right, it's all about the test. It's all about the test whether that nation or any nation, all right, it's just a fundamental human political question, all right. So that nation or any nation, so conceived and so dedicated, with how is the United States conceived and dedicated? It's on the ideas of this Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal, all right. So the Americans are the torchbearers. The Americans are the pioneers, and the Americans are the cities on the mountain. All right. So America has got that historical place in human history. It's just the culmination of in my view, right? 5,000, 6,000 human history, human travel, human suffering, human pain, ultimately, finally gave rise to the formation of the United States of America. Therefore, that's the political end of human beings. Like whenever any human society matures and completes its evolution, human society as a polity, it would be, in my view, a liberally democratic country, based on the system which the American Constitution aspires for. So, but as I said, that thing is not guaranteed. Even the Americans themselves can lose it. Even the Westerners can lose it. Even the entire humanity can lose it, in my view. All right. It depends on how we work, especially intellectually, to keep the fire burning. And in my view, even though there are wonderful Americans who understand, right, the nitty-gritty of it and who work to defend it, who are dedicated to defending it, uh, it looks like there is a vacuum. People are, it looks like people are flirting with, for example, with the so-called developmental state model, which is being championed by China, in Japan. As I told you, if you are exposed to the American, popular politics, the medias. There are people who are somehow appreciative of the way the Russians are handling their economy, and the way the Chinese are handling their economy and their business, or some of this city-state kind of things like Qatar, UAE, Singapore, and so forth are handling their affairs. Japan, and by and by, it looks like Americans' conviction, American commitment to the ideals of America is being eroded for so many different reasons. Therefore, um, I want to be that voice, all right? In this, I don't know how many series it's going to be, but in this number of series, in this series, which would be a number of episodes, I'm going to defend the foundational principles. I want to show their excellence, their prominence, and actually negating them or being contrary to them is standing against your own interest, standing against your own benefit. Therefore, I want to be that voice. I want to be that sound who defend that foundational principle because, for example, if you look into the American politics, people completely have forgotten what it means, or like what the Declaration of Independence is all about, what the American Constitution is all about. They think most, in my view, that's my assessment. I can be wrong, all right. But they think they are defending the Constitution. They think they are for it. They think they understand it, but I doubt. And that's that's also the most dangerous way of drifting from the ideals of the Constitution. You might think you are doing the best thing. You might think you are there. You might think you've got it, but it looks like most people, in the name of defending the Constitution, in the name of championing American kind of freedom, defending the American way of life, it looks like they're standing contrary to it, to my surprise. All right. Therefore, um, what I want to do is simply, I want to start actually because, the way I see it or the way I understand it, the deviation or the drifting from the American constitutionalism, the Declaration of Independence, the original American spirit is creating a global chaos. All right, global chaos. People don't understand it. If we don't wake up early and reroute ourselves, the world doesn't wake up early and reroute itself back to the original ideas of the American constitutionalism, because the American constitutionalism is not like the figment of somebody's imagination. It's not some, in my view, all right, it's a discovery of a law of nature. Yeah, right. Just like gravity, if you believe in gravity, or just like some chemistry law, biological law, it is a principle, a social dynamic principle. And unless people work day and night to keep that understanding burning, all right, that understanding alive, people can easily drift from it. And it's with great consequence that we drift. And it looks like we're drifting by great measure. And for example, it's manifesting itself. I know it might look ironic, right? But it's manifesting itself in, among other things, all right? There is, what you call it, a juggernaut amount of global debt, all right? How, I want to show that because countries are becoming excessively indebted, all right? Countries are becoming very taxing. They collect, I know taxing means a different things, but they are almost um, expropriating their people through hefty taxes. All right, the system, I'm not saying I don't want to be like some people who would say that there is no income tax in the American Constitution, so income tax is unconstitutional. No, I'm not saying I'm for tax. All right, but tax has its own dynamics and principles, and it looks like people are debating, like, the political, what you call it, the political drifting, the political deviation is resulting, like like creating a mountain of debt, and um, it's creating um, heavily debt laden, all right, heavily indebted welfare system. Infrastructures are rotting, and so societies are being polarized. The future is, like, getting gloomy for some people. People don't see, like, it's amazing. There are quite a number of Americans who feel like, like Westerners who feel like, the future is not bright for so many reasons, but they don't understand, or they don't relate that this is because they are, like drifting from the original ideas, or they think that they've been there, like, they understood it, they have accepted it, they are working for it, but it's not delivering the kind of result they want. Therefore, what I want to do in this, in this series, all right, in the series is, let's let's return back to the foundational principles, and as we understand them and as we practice them, a lot of things that we think, like, for example, I keep listening, like today itself, like I've been listening to, you know there has been a budget debate in the United States. There was a government shutdown, and now, so many people are threatened to lose their health care, what you call it, their health insurance, because of the government budgeting issue and so forth. And uh, like, people don't relate that with, that's what my idea is. People don't relate that the uh, American healthcare system failure, the debt, like, the rising debt of the American government, the polarization, the disorientation, and some of the things that we see in the world, the geopolitical tensions and so forth, uh, are a sign of drifting from these original ideas, all right, for by so many people. Therefore, I want to be that person who reminds people that how these things are related, how these things affect, all right, like how our understanding of the Declaration of Independence are resulting such things. And therefore, I want to, like, actually what I wanted to do was to start it with, I know it's politics. I was not supposed to use the Bible, but, like, it was on my mind, on my heart, and I want to start it with this one. And this is from, like, for those of you who know the Bible, there is a book called the Book of Jeremiah. On chapter 6 of 16, Jeremiah prophesies to the people of Israel and says, this is what the Lord says, all right, stand at the crossroads and look. I feel like the world is at a crossroad, all right, I really do. And ask for the ancient path, all right, ask where the good way is and walk in it, and you'll find rest for your souls. But you say it will not walk in it. Like, kind of captures how I view the world now. Yeah, right. And what's that ancient ways? It's not like, I mean, it's not the biblical, like, when you contextualize it. The ancient way is understanding the Declaration of Independence, understanding the American Constitution, understanding, like, those political philosophers like John Locke. It's understanding those political philosophers like, political or political economic philosophers like Adam Smith. I know these are elementary things. So many people claim they understand it, but I doubt that's what, like, that's what you call it. People say they know. People say they understand, but when you hear them describing it, when they hear them relating it, when they hear them implementing it, it feels like they don't, for me. Therefore, I want to present my view of these things. How do I understand the American Declaration of Independence? How do I understand the American Constitution and what it means? All right. How do I understand John Locke? How do I understand Adam Smith? And how do I contemporize it or relate it to the current political economic situation of the world? And what things should we do? All right. Uh, that's what I want to do. So I want to do I want to start this with the explanation, a descriptive presentation of the Declaration of Independence. I know it might sound elementary, but as I told you, my contention is people claim they understand it, people claim they know it, but I feel like they don't. Because if they understand it, they wouldn't say what they are saying, they would be doing what they're doing. So uh, I'm going to go through the Declaration of Independence, and once I lay the foundation with that, all right, maybe I would continue to discuss about the American, federal government, the debt crisis in Japan, the debt crisis in China. All right, I know, the Chinese are not constitutional Americans. They're no, not anywhere near. But I see some kind of relations. All right, so what is that relation? I want to relate that with you. So, it goes on saying the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. So these are the first 13 states of the United States that declare independence from their British colonial masters. And what I love about it is they write this thing, not just when you read this thing, one of the most interesting thing that you see is they are appealing to human consciousness. It's not just an American thing. This is a human thing. All right, this is a human thing. Like as if I don't know whether they know it or not, but according to my discovery, the Americans by some happenstance, by some divine providence or whatever you call it, somehow discovered the final political answer to human political suffering and pain. And it looks like they understand that, and they are appealing to all humanity. All right, so it's what you call it, I feel like these things are written not only for themselves, all right, just for anyone who has ears, all right, for anyone who wants to create a better society, for anyone who wants to to create a society which where people live happily together, kind of thing. Because as simple as that sounds, it was what you call it. Aristotle says man is a political animal. All right, and Aristotle says man is a political animal. What does he mean? I don't know. What do you understand when you say man is a political animal? You can give your own interpretation of that. But if you go and read into Aristotle's and Aristotle's the politics, his book, when he say man is a political animal, what he means is man cannot live alone. All right, he's a political animal, just like a bee. All right, a bee, it's a colony, they live together, they have each one has its own duties, responsibilities, and so forth. They live together, they are gregarious animals, he says. So man is more so. Human beings cannot live alone because and also you can see Jean-Jacques Rousseau saying, right, the social contract and what it is about, right? I'm trying to question why does human being, all right, like he says on his opening statement, man is born free, but he's in chain everywhere. He start with that powerful sentence, all right? Man is born free, and he's in chain everywhere, and the chain is if you are just like a casual reader, you'd assume that the chain is he's enslaved, he's encumbered, he's indentured and so forth. No, no, no. The chain is society. All right, the chain is society. So he says man is born free, but willfully he submits himself, or he brings himself in chain, he brings himself into a society, he becomes a political animal because he cannot live a good, right, full, life where he realize all of his potentials alone. He cannot do that by himself. He has to live in a community, in a society. All right, he's born free, but like as if what you call it, an iron is pulled by a magnet. Man, human beings are pulled to each other, and they tend to aggregate and live together. That's why Aristotle says man is a political animal. So, but historically, if you see, people cannot live alone. They have to live together. They need each other for a number of things. But living together has been almost impossible, yeah, right? Because people don't understand the dynamics. So, if you have like the luxury to study different histories, you see that society has been a problem. All right, people have been suffering. People come under slavery because there is a society. All right, um, people have paid with their life for expressing their idea. Just somebody says, "I don't believe in God," they just toss them. All right, somebody does society provide humanity whatever he wants, but that same society can turn out to be a monster and just kill without impunity. Actually, even there are political philosophers if you read Thomas Hobbes, he says because the state of the state of humanity before government is the state of war, where life is brute, short, ugly, poor, and so forth. He has that beautiful explanation of the state of war, right? Because that is very insufferable. People prefer to live under even the most obnoxious dictatorship. He argued even like that. You know what I'm trying to say? So he even goes on to say, if the king kills someone for no reason, people better submit to that, because if they revolt against the king and throw him away, what they find themselves in is a state of nature, which is essentially is a state of war, where everyone is against everyone, and where life is short, all right, poor, and so forth and so forth. So people have been struggling to understand. I mean, it's like you cannot live with it, and but you cannot live without it, kind of thing. People are society was proving to be these hard and rock places for human beings. They cannot embrace it, but they cannot push it away because they don't understand the dynamics. They tried all kinds of government. All right, the Greek, you can look at the Greek democracy. Democracy is a better thing. People now just they use the word democracy casually, but democracy simply means a rule of the majority, and rule of the majority can be tyrannical. Yeah, right. If it's not tempered with civil liberty, because the majority, the Greeks have been notorious for just ostracizing whatever they don't want. They just throw people out. All right, somebody raises his hand and says this a guy is very bad, whatever, and the assembly decided that that person should be expropriated and thrown out of the city. They would do that to him without any call. All right. Actually, some argue that right, Socrates was a victim of such a system. All right, that's why Plato hates democracy. They say so. Democracy, the bare democracy, which is just the vote of the majority, can be tyrannical. So what I'm trying to say is, people have been experimenting, including democracy. They have tried monarchy, democracy, or oligarchy. You can go and read the Republic by Plato, and it's all about which one is the best political system for human beings. Can you imagine these people 2,500 years ago? They've been debating which political system is the best for human beings, because it was difficult to live with people. I mean, there were people were unable to discover the best social organization system. So it has been what you call it. Society has proved to be something that you cannot avoid, but something that you cannot live with it. So that's the entirety of human history. until the Declaration of American Independence. All right. So when they declare that, now they are speaking to whole humanity. It's not just about Americanism. All right. It's a principle. We discover something. All right. By the way, this foundation, like founding fathers, they are readers in my view. I mean, I couldn't believe Alexander Hamilton wrote, all right, in his 30s, wrote the Federalist paper, number of papers in the Federalist paper, the compilation that we have as now is the Federalist paper. It's written by um, James Madison, all right, Alexander Hamilton, and I forgot what the side person, something like that. So, I mean, these people, the understanding of Alexander Hamilton, he's a young guy, he's in his 30s, but somehow, I don't know, is it a matter of gift or it's a gift that has been perfected through very, very elaborate reading. He understands power, he understands dynamics, he understands human history, all right, and he puts it in such a way, my goodness, all right, what a life, you would say. So the American Declaration in Independence is an answer to that, what you call it, conundrum. People have been struggling to find that mean, social mean, all right, that political mean, that political average that would have everybody happy, all right, at least the greater majority of them happy. Because as I told you, people cannot live by themselves, but living together have been such an obnoxious, very difficult, ugly thing. And throughout it, society have been abusing people for everything imaginable. I mean, for God's sake, this guy is crucified Jesus. All right. They stone people. They do all kinds of heinous things that you can imagine. And so the American Declaration is that magical formula that find, all right, the limit of individual, the limit of government power, the limit of individual freedom. That golden mean was discovered by the Americans, all right, and but the Americans just didn't discover it. This thing started in Greek in Athens, but by and by finally it goes into the medieval schools or divine divine this theological seminaries there in it reaches I mean Magna Carta also played such a significant role, you can see there. So it has been a historical progression in my view, which finds its culmination with John Locke's the two treatises of government, more specifically the second treatise of government, all right. And there is also of course so many other writers, but I don't think anyone was as prominent as John Locke. And the American founding fathers also discovered that, all right. So it's like what you call it, it was a river of knowledge that has been flowing for centuries, that finally created you know like uh, um, the American freedom, the oasis of America. So we have to understand the Declaration of Independence is that in they are speaking to humanity. So when they declare independence, they are not just this is not secessionism. All right. Like for example, I don't know. For most people, secessionists are not are not countenanced. People don't like them. All right. Just secession, uh, generally, it's not well accepted. Americans are not secessionists, all right? And unluckily for humanity, everybody who tries to copy them wrongly. All right? So they are not secessionists. They are declaring independence. And that declaration of independence is not just only from Britain, all right? It is just a departure from thousands of historical political error, miscalculation, all right, misunderstanding, people egos, that was a fundamental departure from that. So the American Declaration was a discovery. It is not simply a secessionist. They are just stating their cause. We are not seceding because we are wantons. We are just, some kind of bandits. We saw an opportunity. We want to squander it. No, that's not who we are. This is, all right, a quest for God-given dignity. This is an answer to humanity's quest, humanity's cry, humanity's travel. For thousands of years, people have been looking for such a respite, historical relief, and the Americans are declaring that. They're like, that lady, right? Even though it comes late, it is something like that. So they often saying when in the course of human events, this thing is not just, some happenstance. I mean, if you look at secessionists or these guerrilla fighters, they're just bandits, all right? They are irrational, unprincipled, just opportunists trying to seize this opportunity, or it's like they go into that because they don't know any better. All right. No, these people tried, exhausted all other means of excelling. All right. They were trying to realize their potential. And there was human, like as I told you, human society. People cannot live without society. But the society was proving itself cumbersome. It was proving itself super, it's very brutal, tyrannical, evil thing. All right. You can't avoid it, but you can't live with it. So it was, departing from that and starting a new beginning. That becomes a hope. Fundamentally, the world changed right after America. Right after America. The world, I'm an Ethiopian, and I know, I think in or two about Ethiopian history. I the fact that Americans rule the world, you know, like, stops for us Ethiopians, literally a millennial, all right, persecution. So I don't think the Americans were thinking about us when they declared their independence, but that thing reverberates, all right, it reached us. So people should understand that. And the importance of understanding, you can't deviate. All right, this thing is not some, like this is not the figment of somebody's imagination. It's not just whimsical wish. It's not somebody's, wish list. No, it's a discovery. All right, people are political animals. All right, human beings are political beings more so than the bees. Uh, my network is so bad today. I wish, I can take you to the Aristotle's politics and how he defines, what he means. Man is a political animal. We are by design, all right. We have that proclivity to live in packs, but living together proves to be very dangerous. And the American discovered that, and they say when in the course of human history, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bonds which have connected them with another. All right, why? We are not. It's forced upon us. All right, it's not like opportunism. All right, we've been bonded with the bread, with a political ban, with a political ban. But in the course of time, it comes that we have to sever this thing because it becomes unbearable. Like, it becomes unbearable. Some society, historically, if you go and look at the entirety of human history, you see that we can't live without society, but societies growingly become unbearable. And the Americans discovered, all right, how to break that chain. And they break that chain, all right. And by God's grace, if they keep that, themselves at liberty, just by maintaining that independence spirit with the right motive, you have no idea how they changed the world, literally. Yeah, right. Europeans are changed by Americans. People don't understand, maybe. All right. like you cannot find now a country without a constitution. Almost it's a norm, even though most of the constitutions are just BS. All right, democracy is now a household term. Even the Chinese have their own democracy. All right, even the Russians, conduct elections. All right, so it is so phenomenal. All right. So when in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bonds which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitled them. You know, like, in my view, all right, uh, this statement, all right, to assume among the powers of the earth, all right, the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and the nature of God entitled them. This sentence captures the entirety of the second treatise of government by John Locke. All right, if you go and look at the second treatise of the second treatise of John Locke, he said to derive political power and right. That's how I think that's how he begins it. All right. So, yeah, in the second treatise of John Locke, chapter 2, of the state of nature, about the state of nature, he says, that, in that chapter, he says, to understand political power aright and derive it from its original, we must consider what state all men are naturally in. What he's trying to say is, what is the source of political power? All right. Why do some people become government? Like, where does, I mean, what justifies political power? Where does it come from? What's the source of it? What's the original source of it? And he says the original source of it is the state of nature, the state of nature. And I don't, should I? I'm not sure if I, um, so what I'm trying to say is, then, so, he asked this question, and you can go on the entirety of, the second treatise of government. He would be expounding this thing. All right, where does political power come from? And, what's its limitation? What can it do? What's human liberty? And what's the extent of human liberty, and so forth? He keeps explaining those things. So when they say this, all right, when they say this, they assume among the powers of the earth the separate equal station to which the laws of nature in the nature's God entitle them, is essentially, in my view, in my understanding, they are just, if it's hyperlink, if it's in the modern context, all right, if this is a hyperlink, when you click it, it's supposed to send you directly to the second treatise of government by John Locke, starting from chapter 2 to the end. All right. So, like, I hope I would come to explaining, the source, like the John Locke, at some time, because if I start now, it would be going forever and ever. And but, the Americans are saying, based on that understanding of the origins of political power, it's where is it derived from? It's derived from the state of nature. People are, in summary, what does it mean is, people are born free. All right, nobody, everyone is born free. If you go in, like, what you call it, oscillating, should I somehow explain this in a summarized form or not? I think I should do that now. So what he's trying to say is, if you look at human beings, just that's just it, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand that men are born free, in a sense, um, except the physical limitation that's put upon them by nature. There is no restriction to what they can do. All right, nothing stops them. All right, the only thing that's restricting, that's limiting them, is the physical restriction that's imposed upon them by biology and nature. Nothing restricts them. So that means they are born free. That's the essence of they are born free. In a sense, they can do whatever they think is right, and that's what he says. All right, to understand political power right and derive it from its original, we must consider what state all men are naturally in, and that is a state of perfect freedom. That's what they are born into, every one of them. All right, naturally, even a slave is born in that state. All right, the slavery is imposed upon him by the society, not nature. All right, like everybody, it doesn't matter whether it's black, white, yellow, brown. It doesn't matter. All right, that person, even the person born under slavery, the slavery is a human construct. It's not a natural imposition on him. Actually, like to his what you call it, discredit, Aristotle argued human is like some people are born slaves. But like when he says some people are born slave, it's not in the context that we understand slaves. He says some people are, like so dumb. That's his saying. Like some people are so dumb, they have to be led. All right, so they are born to be slaves. But um, that's like his mistake. But if you look at like the excellence of in my view, John Locke is the ultimate political scientist in my view. All right, he's the ultimate political scientist. By the way, he also hears about slavery. Like he argues, uh, if in a wartime, all right, you defeat someone and you took him like prisoner of war, because you have just like an absolute right to kill him, because you didn't find him on the street. He was out there to kill you, and somehow he surrendered. All right, you have a say on his life. You can kill him. Therefore, if you have because you have complete authority over his life, you can enslave him, but you can't. Like that's like he argued. I mean, in my view, like one of the things that surprises me is people. It's human actually. Like we lack consistency. All right, except that, except that era, in my view, John Locke is the ultimate political scientist. So he says, all right, like you can anyone you find, all right, someone with noble birth, someone with just like a normal human being, someone like born to a rich family, to a poor family, regardless of their social, economic, cultural, racial, whatever status, they are born free, and that freedom is expressed in like how you quantify it is that person can do whatever he wants. There is no limitation on him except his physical limitation, physical, biological limitation. And that's the state of nature. All right. So it's from there that he says, all right, it's from that state of nature that political power is derived. How is the question? How does, I don't know, if you like if you're smart, yeah, like you can just extrapolate and say that because of this and it's derived in, but like the excellence of John Locke is, I mean, detour a little bit, but what I'm trying to say is the excellence of John Locke is he discovered with something which is so apparent but have been eluding humanity for so many years. All right, people were not able to articulate it in such a way that is so appealing. All right, and John Locke, like what you call it, broke so-called the ceiling and bring it to in writing form to human understanding. So men are born free. All right, like that is the origin of political power, and he says that freedom is all right a state of perfect freedom to order their actions and dispose of their possessions and persons as they think fit within the bounds of the law of nature. By the way, what he says the law of nature is it's like what Confucius says the law of reciprocity. Like what you don't want to be done to yourself, don't do to others. That's the only limitation he says. But like there is also biological freedom. Like if you want, like if people want to kill, I mean, there is limitation things like there is limitations on people. In my view, other than the law of nature itself, all right, unless you say that the law of nature also include those physical limitations. But like if you read them, read both John Locke and Robert Filmer, and also Locke himself, the law of nature they're saying is not that physical limitations, but the fact that you cannot, like, you don't have to do to others what you don't want to be done to yourself. All right. So according to Locke, according to Locke, the origin, the source of political power is that state of nature, which is a state of perfect freedom to dispose of your property or action, do whatever you want to do without, only limited by the law of nature, which means why you do that, you cannot do whatever you want to other people's without the potential reaction from those people. All right. So, except that limitation, people have, without asking leave or depending upon the will of any other man. People can do whatever they want to. If we are especially a grown adult man, there is no restriction, all right, to what you can do. You cannot, you don't have to ask any leave, any permission, any kind of opinion from anyone. You just can go out and do whatever you want. And that's the origin of political power. And how does that become the origin of political power is because as people, but this is, he goes on to say it's the origin of political power because this freedom is not one person's freedom, it's everybody's freedom. All right. Everybody is born into that complete state of freedom. People are free, and it's not for one person. Anyone, he can be black, he can be white, he can be brown, he can be yellow. He's born into that. Even in, as I said, a person who's born under slavery is naturally free. The slavery is just a human construct. So, but that freedom is a state of equality wherein all power and jurisdiction is reciprocal. No one having more than another, there being nothing more evident than that the creature of the same species and rank promiscuously born to all the same advantage of nature in the use of the same faculties should, and let me skip that. The essence is what he's trying to say is because, it's reciprocal and there is a reciprocity. Now, everyone is a king, essentially, so to speak, because he can do whatever he wants to. He's born into that. Nobody's giving him to it. He's just naturally the nature promiscuously born to all the same advantage of nature. There is no male, female, or like Greek, barbarian, Roman, African, European, American, blah blah. Everyone is equally born into that. So everybody is a king. Therefore, unless somehow they find some golden mean to arbitrate their relationship among themselves, this thing is going to be disastrous. All right. That is where political power is derived from. All right. So people should find that golden mean whereby their kingship is not in existential conflict with the kingship of the other human being who is asking us themselves. So the origin of the political power is that one, the inherent potency for conflict and state of war that gives rise for the necessity of a political power. Political power comes into being because people should find a mean. All right. I should end this thing because I have to limit the time for the time for 1 hour. We'll continue it in the second video. So see you there. Thank you for listening. See you in the next video.